What's going on, everybody? Keith Niebuhr with Gators Online, and we got a big show today, rapid reaction show. A lot of big news coming out of Gainesville. We're joined by senior reporter Zach Albaverdi, who is live in Austin, Texas, out there getting ready to cover the big Florida-Texas football game this Saturday at DKR in the Lone Star State. And also joined by recruiting analyst Corey Bender. We're going to cover this from all angles, but the big news, obviously, is that Scott Strickland, Florida athletic director, has put out a letter that we teased to last night and again this morning, that Billy Napier is going to be coaching the Florida Gators moving forward. Now, those are those are words that obviously could be changed. He could change his mind. But the point being, the expectation, guys, is that he's going to be Florida's coach in 2025. And Scott Strickland, the AD at Florida, said, look, I think things are moving in the right direction. The team, after a slow start, is showing that it's got some juice. And, right now they think that the school and the program are on an upward trajectory. So, Zach, what's your reaction to this news?
Yeah, I think that there were a lot of people from inside the program to recruits and probably even fans too that were waiting for something like this, one way or the other. Like if Florida felt like it knew what it was going to do with Billy, to come out and make a statement so that the speculation did not keep continuing each and every week, because it was something that was bleeding over into the recruiting trail. Schools were obviously using it as a negative pitch against Florida. And I think that based on Strickland's statement on Thursday, it's clear that within the past month, based on how the team has played and improved, that he's felt like Billy has earned another year. And if that's how he feels and that's the decision and nothing is going to change that, then come out and say it so that the speculation can end, recruits can know, fans can know, and whether you like it or not, it's out there, and it doesn't have to keep getting debated about each and every week.
All right, Corey, you cover this. You've covered the Gators for a long time, but mainly from a recruiting standpoint. Just your initial thoughts from talking to recruits. You've already chatted with about a dozen of them. What's the word out there?
It's all been very positive, Keith. I think that's the main thing, just to piggyback off what Zach was saying. I think just them coming out and saying it, giving a decision, so that way the recruits know, and then obviously it can kind of just take on from there, whether they're going to keep them or not, or like you said, or let them go. I think they had to have a decision sooner than later. And I think right now, when you look at Florida's class, I talked to the majority of them, there wasn't one bad reaction. And obviously some kids obviously aren't going to come out and probably give a horrible reaction to begin with. But all of it was very positive, from Vernell Brown to Jalen Wiggins to Nashawn Montgomery. These are all key blue chip guys that Florida needs to keep in the class. And you look at Florida's class overall, obviously it's down in the rankings, but they do have some star power towards the top. And all three of those kids, all three of them echo that they're excited about the news and they want to play for Billy Napier, especially Vernell Brown, who obviously is the face of the class. So I think overall, I think it was the right move from Scott Strickland. Obviously, if you want him or not from the fan base, they wanted to keep him, and the response has been very positive on the recruiting trail.
All right, Zach, we're hearing that there's probably going to be some staff changes. At least I am. I think you are too. There's probably going to be some staff changes this offseason. There usually are every year, by the way, whether you're winning or losing. What do you think some changes that could be made that could benefit Billy Napier in 2025? Because let's be honest, if Florida is in fact just kicking the can down the road, there are no more tomorrows after 2025. I mean, we will now know based on today that the clarity for next year is you have to win. That's it. There'll be no fifth year if the fourth year isn't something good. So Zach, what do you think some offseason changes that might be pondered or maybe you think maybe need to be made? And I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but you've covered this program for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, there's already been a lot of stuff that he addressed last offseason, which I think is one of the reasons why he's getting another year, to be honest. Hiring a new defensive coordinator, hiring a new special teams coordinator. The Gators have improved in both of those areas, probably because of those coaching changes that were made. You also hired a new defensive line coach. Florida seems to be playing better in the trenches as of late. And then you brought in a new strength and conditioning coordinator, which has also helped things, as well as a new nutritionist. Look, there was a lot of changes last offseason, but there was also one that didn't happen that folks have been clamoring for, and that is an OC. Have to think that's going to be something that's on the table this offseason, but that's probably not the only adjustment that they can make to the staff. I think that certainly along the offensive line, how that's structured and what that looks like in 2025 is probably going to get evaluated. Also, what they're doing from a recruiting standpoint, from an NIL standpoint. Don't forget they lost Mark Robinson right before the season. There's been some talk of them hiring. I mean, they have Jacob LaFrance on staff now, who is listed as the general manager, but there is some talk about them bringing on an additional person to kind of oversee things also in a GM type role that's been reported at On3, and Florida's already started the process of trying to hire somebody there. So I still think some things are going to shake up with the staff once they get to 2025. But again, I think the changes that Billy was willing to make after last season, some of the tough calls, some of the friends that he had to deliver bad news to, and then what those results have led to this fall has I think given some confidence in the program that he can go out and make another round of hires this offseason and continue to improve the product.
One thing I want to point out, Zach is not sleeping in his car. He is in Austin, Texas. He has picked up his rental car and he's riding around town. So we appreciate him.
I'm actually on a river right now.
Don't jump. Okay. So look, here's the interesting thing. There's a lot of unknowns still. And let's talk about Scott Strickland first. He's really putting his neck out on the limb here, guys. He is tied. His whole legacy, whatever, everything he does is tied to Billy Napier. And so far, Billy Napier, we need to point out, is 15-18 as Florida coach in year 3. 15-18 in year 3. He is 1-10 against Florida's rivals. The only win over a rival coming in 2023 in that great game at home against Tennessee. But all other 10 games against rivals, losses. Florida has 2 more rivalry games this season. LSU in 2 weeks at home. That won't be easy. We don't even know if DJ Lagway is going to be playing or not. And we'll talk about Lagway in a minute. And then also they play host to Ole Miss. But the second rivalry game remaining this season at FSU in week 12, I know everybody's looking at that and saying, boy, they suck. That's an easy win. FSU has an open week 2 weeks before that game. And the week before that game plays Charleston Southern, while Florida plays this gamut of powers. Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, back-to-back. No weeks off goes into that game. So it's not going to be a walk in the park. But, Zach, about Scott Strickland here, he's feeling it right now. You had to make this call one way or the other, and he went one way, and some fans are going to support it, but a lot of fans aren't. So just what's your take on his situation right now?
Yeah, obviously he's tied to Billy, and I think that he's well aware of that. He has said in the past that he doesn't necessarily agree with the notion that an athletic director doesn't get an opportunity to hire a third football coach. He's been asked that directly because that's been the narrative for the longest, is that you're not going to get to hire 3 football coaches at an SEC school. But it has happened at some places. In fact, Jeremy Foley hired 3 football coaches. Actually, no, I think he hired 4, right, Keith? He hired
Maybe
Urban. He hired Zook. He hired
Yeah.
Urban, and he hired he hired Zook. He hired Urban. He hired Muschamp, and he hired McElwain. So he hired 4.
Of course, one of those guys was good. That was the difference. But we're going to find out. We're going to find out next year if Billy Napier has it or not. I mean, that's a longer rope than a lot of coaches are getting these days. Willie Taggart didn't get that. Ron Zook didn't get that. And quite frankly, Ron Zook, if we're going to be totally honest, recruited a lot better than this staff has done.
But I would say with Strickland though, as much as Florida fans are going to judge him on Napier, there's a lot of other reasons why he is still the AD at Florida, why he's very liked within the administration, why he's very liked among Gator boosters and the people that interact with him. And I also think that if Todd Golden continues to have success as Florida's men's basketball coach, that also can't be ignored. So we'll just have to see how it plays out. But there's no doubt that ultimately he's going to be judged by what Billy does, and I think that that's part of the reason that factored into his decision.
Corey, don't go anywhere. I haven't forgotten about you. I got some good
I'm
stuff.
still here. I'm doing recruit reaction at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm still here.
Corey's actually working. Jack and I are just having a little conversation here. But Zach, I got another thing. We just barely mentioned DJ Lagway. If DJ Lagway, what if hypothetically, if they were 4-4, but DJ Lagway hadn't played and shown some potential, I wonder if this decision doesn't get made. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, how much do you think Lagway emerging as a guy that looks like, look, he's had one really good game, and then the other games there were bits and pieces, but how much do you think, Zach, DJ Lagway's emergence as the future of this program, it made them think we got to keep Billy around? Let's give him a chance. How important was it?
That definitely has factored into it. I mean, he was the crown jewel of their 2024 class. He's the biggest recruit that Florida signed since Tim Tebow, and he's looked good. He's kind of opened up Florida's offense. He's thrown the deep ball very, very well, which excites a lot of fans and recruits. And I think that, we can point to the defense getting better, and we can over the course of the season, they weren't good. They didn't look better to start the season, but ever since that first bye week, ever since they put Ron Roberts upstairs, that unit is playing better, and I don't think anybody can deny that. Special teams has clearly been fixed. Shout out to Joe Houston. And I think on the offensive side, regardless of what happens maybe with the coordinator situation, to have not just DJ Lagway, although he is the big guy there, the big name, but it's DJ Lagway, it's Jaden Baugh, it's Aiden Mizell, it's Tank Hawkins, it's some of the young offensive linemen that have played this season. Like, there are some pieces that they have on that offensive side of the ball that they like, that they feel like they can build with for the future, and it's all starts and is built around DJ Lagway. And yes, 100%, him going out there, setting the freshman record for the most passing yards in a game, having over 300 yards of offense in the win against Kentucky, having that late throw at Tennessee to send it into overtime, and then certainly leading Florida to a 10-3 lead against Georgia before he left the game with an injury, is a lot to be encouraged about, and I think that's certainly played a factor here.
Well, one of the things that we've been talking about with subscribers on the board the last several weeks is, yes, there are some young people emerging, but the starting lineup isn't that young. If you think about it, you got Lagway and Baugh, sure, but the offensive line's a lot of veterans playing. Your two best receivers by far this season have been Badger, right, and Shamir DK, both transfers. Your tight ends are veterans. You got a bunch of transfers playing big roles on defense. So there are guys that are going to have to be replaced. So Florida is not only going to have to somehow finish this recruiting cycle with some wins with the high school guys, because right now they're only 30 seconds.
I got to push back a little bit on that.
Yeah.
Because one, the tight ends, they're both redshirt sophomores, I believe. So they're not going anywhere. There is the potential that Florida brings back its entire offensive line except for Brendan Crenshaw-Dixon. Austin Barber and Jake Slaughter and Damian George are all redshirt juniors.
Yeah.
I think Jake Slaughter could probably turn pro after this year, but he could come back. And if he comes back, you're bringing back 4 starters on your offensive line. Yes, you lose DK and Badger, but if you keep Eugene Wilson coming off that hip surgery, you bring back Aiden Mizell and some of those other pieces. They're going to have to go get another stud out of the portal at wide receiver. There's no doubt about it. But then you go on the defensive side, too. Pup Howard, Jaden Robinson, Cormani McClain, Dijon Johnson. They got a lot of guys that are going to be coming back in 2025, which is, again, is another reason why I think they're trying to keep this thing together.
What's Shamar James? What class is he?
He's a junior. He's a junior. I don't think he's.
Well,
I don't think he's a guy that's turning pro right now.
I'm just looking at, I think, 7 to 8 starters that were like older transfers, and look, there's going to be some young guys, but there's also going to be some key guys they're going to have to replace. Is all I'm saying. Which means if there are young guys behind them, but maybe unproven, we don't know. You don't know what they're going to do when the lights are on. They're going to have to do better in the portal. Now they did better in the portal this past cycle than they had done with Pup Howard, with Shamir DK, with Elijah Badger, but they've got to continue on an upward path there. And here's the other thing. It's not all just about talent. I think the fans that are complaining, the most are saying, okay, I get that. They came in, they needed to retool things. But on game day, I don't think that they've seen what they've wanted to see yet. So that's clearly an area where the coaching staff's going to have to get better and better. The Tennessee game is a prime example of that. The field goal blunder at the end of the first half with the time and all that. That's a game that was there for the taking. And if they're 5-3, it's a whole different narrative right now. So
it's really the play calling. I mean, it really ties into the OC talk, in my opinion.
Yeah. But Corey, I was going to ask you with recruiting. One guy we're following, Zach's following. Zach, in fact, you got to give him credit, was the first guy to mention it on the board. Florida's still working on Tramel Jones, 4-star quarterback committed to FSU. FSU's 1-8. Biggest disappointment in all of college football. I don't think there's any question about that. A complete egg they've laid this year. They stink, right? And so they're 1-8. There's going to be some probable staff changes up there too. And guys get close to quarterback coaches. And so we're going to have to see what happens. But there is some real optimism in Gainesville about flipping Tramel Jones, the 4-star quarterback from Jacksonville Mandarin, from FSU. But, Corey, they only have 11 commitments right now. So they've got to, on the one hand, recruit the high school guys, and on the other, start figuring out what they're going to do in the portal. And just so everybody knows, in this day of players having agents, and Zach knows this, conversations probably are already happening somewhere. Now, I'm not saying there's tampering. I'm just saying it's not a coincidence sometimes when a guy enters the portal, they already know where they're going. But anyway, they've got some work to do. Give fans some hope here on the high school side. Is there anybody that you think, hey, this is going to help with? It's not going to help with everybody, by the way. We need to point that out. Some guys.
I think it starts with Tramel Jones, though, because like you said, I mean, there's real buzz there. Obviously, there's some kind of concern in Tallahassee regarding maybe some coaching changes. And a lot of people forget, Florida was the first major school to offer him 2 years ago. And since then, Billy Napier has kind of spearheaded that recruitment, obviously along with Ryan O'Hara. But, it's been – I think a lot of people kind of forgot about him because he missed his senior year. He said he shut down his recruitment to FSU. But Florida never really backed off. And remember, his father graduated from Florida. Obviously, the family loves Florida. And when I spoke to Tramel 2 years ago, he said at the time, he goes, Florida was always my dream offer. You hear that a lot, but obviously that you have to look into that a little bit more, considering his father went there, and that's a school he wanted to play at. Said he wanted to play in the SEC, and you kind of look how everything's shaping down the stretch. Florida never gave up on him. And even last summer when Tramel got back to campus, obviously for a camp along with his teammates, Billy Napier went up to him and was walking around with him the whole time, in between reps and all that type of stuff, and said, hey, you're the guy I want in this class for my quarterback. And obviously there's been other guys, Antoine Hill, some other guys in the class 2025 class they evaluated, but Tramel he was one of the first ones to get offered. Billy Napier has always personally recruited him on a weekly basis. And, Steve Wilfon put in a flip pick earlier today, and it kind of adds up to what all of us have been hearing on the Florida side. So I think when you look at the quarterback position, that's obviously the face of a class, and Florida's kind of struggled recruiting that position. Robert McDaniel, there's an Arizona commit that they obviously offered not too long ago. To our knowledge, no official visit was ever scheduled to this point. So I think if they can get Tramel Jones in the class, I think obviously that'll make a lot of fans happy. And I think if they would have let go of Billy Napier, I don't think that would never happen. Obviously, because you have to wait and see who the new coach is going to be. And, Billy Napier, obviously, like I said before, was the one kind of spearheading that recruitment.
Yes, Rob, he's good, Rob.
Give me a couple more names. Corey.
I think Caleb Singleton's another one that comes to mind. I think obviously Florida's been in a good spot with him for a while, but that staff, I think if a new staff came in, you just never know. He's a mid 3-star guy, but a guy with a high ceiling. I think with Napier coming back, I think that only kind of wraps up that recruitment, I think sooner than later. Zaire Addison's another one. He told me earlier today, the Oregon commit, a big offensive tackle from Tampa, that, that's the right move. That's what they should have done. But I think the biggest thing, Keith, is obviously some of the main guys in the class. I think Nashawn Montgomery's one, a 4-star receiver from Miami Central. He's always said from day one, I believe in Napier, I believe in Gonzalez, and I'll believe it when I see it if they do make a coaching change. And I think if they would have let go of Billy, I think he obviously could have went elsewhere. He's going to Ole Miss this weekend. He didn't make his Washington OV last week, and he told me a little bit ago, about an hour ago, that he's going to reschedule that trip. Alabama's another school that's involved. We don't know how high on the board he is for them right now, but I think bringing Billy back, that's obviously another big move. And Keith, you spoke to Vernell Brown. I think that was obviously the biggest one. He said, quote, "It feels really good to know for sure who your coach is going to be going in. I can't wait to be a part of it." And obviously he's in the class already, but I think that quote, let alone, is a huge win for Florida, just considering the star power he has.
All right. You guys good on time? Can you go a couple more minutes?
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't know if Zach was going swimming out in the river there.
Hey, Keith, real quick, one more too, though. Jalen Wiggins. I want to mention him real quick, just because Marcus Freeman just came to his school last week. He's going to Notre Dame this weekend for an official visit as well. I think you and I can both agree he's been one of the more loyal commits this cycle, says all the right things regarding Florida. But obviously Notre Dame's a high academic school. He's a big academic kid. Stanford was involved before. And I just think the timing of this, I think, kind of makes him take some stress off his shoulders. I think if he's been trying to find a reason, in my opinion, to stay with Florida, but the writing's been on the wall with Billy. So I think obviously with this news coming out before that Notre Dame OV, I think that's obviously very important as well because he's comfortable in games.
All right, we got to mention Jalen Wiggins. A couple guys we didn't mention their position. Jalen Wiggins is listed as a defensive lineman. He's really kind of an end/edge rusher, so Florida needs those guys. And I think, did you mention Caleb Singleton earlier? He is a corner.
Yeah. I mean, Florida initially liked him as a safety. He said they're still talking to him about corner, but either way, in the secondary, I think he could play star as well.
And he really likes Will Harris, the secondary coach of Florida, who went and saw him play a couple weeks ago. If you guys are okay, let's just get to a couple comments in here. I'll put them. Who wants to put them up? I'll put them up. All right. Gary is, there's going to be a group of fans that are happy. There's going to be a group of fans that aren't happy. And Gary's on the side of those not happy. All right. Matthew says, is it set in stone even if he goes 4-8? Zach, just quick thoughts on that. If they lose the rest of their game.
You don't come out and make that statement if you're not going to stick to your guns. So that is I think Strickland saying, I've seen enough to feel like you earn another year, and the fact that you've lost your two starting quarterbacks along with a bunch of other starters, I'm not going to hold it against you the rest of the year.
All right, we got some guys. We're going to get to some positive ones here, but Gator Ken not too happy there. It's always going to be like this. It's a kind of a surreal day. You get a little clarity on a situation, and as a fan, you're like, well, you don't want to root for people to lose. Obviously, you're hoping they turn it around, but boy, the gamut of games coming up.
It was funny for me, guys. I knew that this was coming right before I took off on the runway to go from Orlando to Austin. And then when I landed in Austin, I had a bunch of Florida fans on my flight. And as soon as they landed, everybody was on their phone and started talking about it. And it's like the buzz started going all over the airplane.
Yeah. Jeremy's one of the guys that thinks that, hey, look, head in the right direction, stay strong. Let's see what happens. Dwayne, one of the guys on the other side. It's just going to be one of those things. Let's see if I can find some questions in here. If we get some questions, we will. It's a lot of the same comments, a lot of pro, a lot of negative, whatever. Now, here's an interesting one. Here's a guy that disagrees with all of us. Frank says, hey, losing out, Napier's gone. No way they keep him after 4-8. Zach, I tend to agree with you. I just wonder what happens if they lose to FSU, with FSU going into that game only 2-9. FSU plays Notre Dame this week, probably going to get killed. Then Charleston Southern. That's going to be a bitter pill.
I will say I don't think Florida's going to go 4-8. I just don't. I think they're going to. I think they're going to beat FSU.
If Lagway can play, really.
Like if Lagway's back, which it looks like he's obviously questionable for this week, I think he should be back for LSU.
Yeah.
I think they're going to beat LSU or Ole Miss in the Swamp. That's just what I think. Interesting.
All right, let's just get through a couple of these comments. Let's see. Here we go. Kevin says, hey, use the $20 million. The buyout would have been about, if you fired Billy today, tomorrow, 3 weeks from now, it'd be about $26 million, just so everybody knows. Then let's suppose, for argument's sake, you want to go get Lane Kiffin. You have to buy him out of his current contract. You got to pay. It's a lot of money. And then also next year, the revenue sharing starts with the NIL, and schools have to come up with about $20 million there too. So, and on the one hand, we hear about how much money they make out of TV. And then on the other hand, we hear, we don't have money for this. We don't have money for that. Who really knows what the truth is? But Kevin, use that $20 million to get out there and buy portal and high school players. Kevin, I agree with you. And I think the one thing that's sort of been missing, not sort of, but really been missing, when you looked at what Ron Zook built, and a lot of old school coaches, they built teams from the inside out, offensive line, defensive line, out to the receivers and other skill position guys. That's where Florida has to take the next step. And it could start with a bang, finishing strong this recruiting cycle, go out and buy some guys, whatever. And then in the portal, use your money wisely to get better along the offensive and the defensive lines.
I got to add something. I saw Smokey Gators.
Oh, what do you say? Yep.
Yep.
I
Just
think we
you,
lost
Keith. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Zach's living in a van down by the river. All right, let's see.
Hopefully he didn't get arrested or something. Ripped him out of his car or something.
Yeah, Jeremy thinks Scott Strickland's the problem. Here's another negative one. Frank says Florida's dead. We're delusional. Look, I mean, nobody. I don't know what day it goes, Zach. I don't know what direction the program's going to go in. We're only reporting what the news is today.
I just wanted to add, I saw somebody, Smokey Gator, I did not pick Florida to win 9 games. I don't know where you read that or where you thought that, and I'm actually Florida's played 8 games this year, and I'm 7-1 in those picks.
Yeah,
well, we found our worst poster.
Just to set the record straight.
We just found our worst poster here. Sam says Zach is the smartest personal I've heard all week. Sam,
what's it say about Sam with that typing?
It's I don't know. I mean, I'm based on the comments in here and based on talking to my friends that are all Florida alums. I think it's about 80-20 negative right now. I don't think they're thrilled. But sometimes as an AD, you got to stick to your guns, I guess. That's probably what they're thinking.
We put a social media reaction out. Check that out. I tried to be kind as I could, splitting up the reactions. But like you said, I think it's largely more negative than positive.
Here we go. King says it's still 70-30 on the fan base. I think it's about 80-20, to be honest with you. But, we'll see. Look, they've got some pieces coming back next year. But, again, like I said, now we know definitively. And if they got to do something next year. But, Zach, here's the question. What is a number of wins next year that makes you think?
Oh, no, look. Florida next year with Lagway coming back with all that young talent that I just talked about, and then portal pieces that they have to go add, you're talking about at least 9-10 wins. I mean,
they better because at some point the levee breaks, right? And it's just right now. I mean, this going to potentially be Florida's fourth lose if they don't beat LSU like Zach thinks and FSU. This will be the 4th straight losing season. Hadn't happened since before any of us were born. So they've got to turn this thing around soon. It certainly would make people feel better if they could win a couple of these games out. Yeah, look, if you beat LSU,
Smokey coming after Zach again. You and Smokey.
Yes. You guys asked me how many wins they need to win. I said they need to win 9 or 10 games.
Hold on,
no, he just said, "Here goes Zach again."
Let's get this up. Zach sucks, total moron. I love it. Where's this guy? I got to hire this guy, man. We got to get this guy on board.
Yeah, real quick though, I got a question for both you guys. If Lagway would have not, if Lagway stayed healthy and didn't get hurt against Georgia, but they still lost that game, do you think they would have brought back Napier? And I was one of the people on the board that said it doesn't sound right, but almost Lagway getting pulled from that game could have saved Napier in a way, just knowing, hate to say this, but their options behind him at quarterback. I mean, you know what I'm saying? And then they kept it close though. Warner kept it close though for a little bit.
Zach's faded out here again. He's in Austin, but the sympathy train really picked up some momentum when DJ Lagway got hurt, and we're going to see here. There's Zach again. We just don't know.
What happened here?
Zach, Corey wants to know. We're going to go in a few minutes here, but Corey wants to know what if Lagway played the whole game against Georgia and they lost? In other words, how much did him getting hurt get Napier that sympathy and that kind of, let's keep the guy kind of momentum? What do you think, Zach?
I mean, honestly, I think it was more about what Florida did after Lagway got injured that probably helped Billy's case in the eyes of Scott Strickland. Like, to have Lagway go down and then to have your preferred walk-on quarterback who's only been taking reps as the backup for 2 weeks tie the game up with the number 2 team in the country in the fourth quarter, I think that was pretty impressive.
Rob S. Now, this is an interesting one we haven't got to yet. And Rob, because we've been working all morning, our brains are a little fried, so forgive us, but great question. What if DJ Lagway leaves anyway? I wonder how many of these Keep Billy fans would still want him here. Probably none, if I had to guess. Probably 0. We haven't heard any chatter about DJ Lagway leaving. Now, that doesn't mean it couldn't happen. Hey, hold on. Who took that question down?
You and Smokey making up live on the air.
Who took that question? Okay, back to Lagway. So here's my thing. So there was talk last year. Remember, Texas A&M was one of the schools that pushed for DJ Lagway late, right? Well, they now sort of have their quarterback, right? They kind of have their quarterback. So I don't know that they're going to be going after DJ Lagway, but who else might? Who else might want him? Is Florida going to have to up the ante to keep him? Has he done enough on the field for them to up the ante? Remember, he got a lot to come here. So it's an interesting question, but to answer it, Rob, if he left, I think that might potentially change some things. And
that'd be the dagger.
There's going to be things that happen. There's going to be guys that enter the portal that we're not thinking about. It happens, but there's also going to be some pickups through the portal that we don't know about yet either, too. So a lot of them. So we'll see. Any other questions, guys? What do you think here? We good to go?
I'm about to go eat some barbecue.
Let's get Rob S's commercial. Rob S commercials. He's Rob's tweet. That is it. We appreciate everybody stopping by. Make sure you go to GatorsOnline.com. If we can toot our own horn right now, a couple of things. We have a really good special right now. I think it's, what is it, guys? Somebody tell me. Corey, in a nutshell.
$1 in the first week and then 50% off the rest of the year.
$1 first week, 50% off the rest of the year. And we don't just report the news. We have stories. We have intel, all that stuff. In fact, last night, the team, the three of us, we had some great insight. We told the readers, guys, we think he's staying, and we think a decision and announcement's coming soon, and it happened the next day. So we led the way on that. We couldn't do that without all of y'all's support. We appreciate it. Zach, have fun in Austin, man. And I guess you're probably doing the sites. What else you got going on today?
Oh man, I'm here till Monday, so I got a whole itinerary.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Lot of eating, I'm assuming, would be my guess. There's a lot of good food there. And Corey's
I've got a whole list.
Corey's getting ready for another big Detroit Lions weekend. But look, Florida versus Texas, Saturday at noon. Make sure you follow all of Zach's coverage. We appreciate each and every one of you. Go to GatorsOnline.com. And that's it. Take care, everybody.